Dog Sledding in Winter Fun webinar. We're really happy to have all of you here on this October morning or midday, wherever you are. So let's get into it. We're excited to chat more about Minnesota winter with you all. I am Katie. I'm the program manager for this trip. I've been working on this trip for a couple of years now, so I'm very happy to be sharing more about it and to be joined by Deb Malman, who has been essentially guiding this trip nearly every year since AGC's inception. So the perfect person to be joining us today. She's a Minnesota native, and I think I hear her say, "I love winter," probably every other time that we speak. So we're very happy to have her join us today. Just a few things before we get into the rest of the details. What you can expect during this webinar. A little bit about the Superior National Forest and Minnesota, whether it's geography, history, what you can expect, not just from activities, but also from the places that you'll be going, the accommodations, because oftentimes those can be a highlight of the trip, as well as the activities and the people you're with and your guides. We'll learn more about the activities themselves: snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, dog sledding. Oftentimes, some of those can be new to participants, so it's a great opportunity to learn more about those. And stay tuned, because at the very end, we will have a couple prizes to give away. We'll also have a chance for some questions to be asked at the end. So if you can, just for the sake of making sure everyone can hear, make sure you're muted during the webinar, and at the very end, we can chat a little bit more if you have any questions. And so I will just go through a few details here as we look ahead to our February trip, and then Deb will share a little bit more about Minnesota and the activities. The trip we are running in 2026 is I'm going to just admit more guest here. Wonderful, welcome. The trip we're running in 2026 begins February 6th and departs on February 11th. And so that is our usual early February trip. We usually have pretty great, a really great track record running that trip in early February. So we always have to cross our fingers for great snow, as is whether you're in Vermont or Minnesota or Colorado, wherever you are. Always doing our snow dances ahead of the time to hope for some good snow on the trails. As for getting to and from the trip on February 6th and departing on February 11th, you can there are a couple of different ways to get to and from the trip. We often advise people to fly into Duluth, which is a small airport. There are a few arrivals and departures each day, but you can fly in and take a taxi to your first hotel, which is where you'll meet the group in the early evening and have your welcome meeting and your welcome dinner. If you're coming from further afield and the flights are a little bit too tricky, you can also fly into Minneapolis and take a shuttle up from Minneapolis to Duluth, which is also a pretty, depending on where you're coming from, can be a good option as well. And so those are the sort of details that we share more information about as once you've registered in your AGC portal. You can expect to find a pre-departure document, which will have all the specifics, whether it's arrival times into Duluth and taxi recommendations to get to your hotel with phone numbers to call, or if you choose to go into Minneapolis, we provide shuttle recommendations. So we're happy to help more as we get closer, and if you decide to register, we can share more information there as well. And then on the departure day, we will get folks back to Duluth by the mid-afternoon, by around 2:30. So you can plan to fly out from Duluth anytime after 4 p.m. or so that day. And it is a small airport again, so there are usually a limited number of flights, but we've timed it so that you can still hopefully get back home that same day and warm back up after a few days in the Minnesota winter. So again, any questions that you have, if you do decide to join us in February, those are questions that I, as your program manager, am happy to help you in more detail as we get closer to. Let's see. So, Deb, would you like to share a little bit more about the North Shore?
Sure. So this trip takes place on the North Shore of Lake Superior in northern Minnesota. Like Katie said, we start in Duluth, Minnesota, and then we start our drive up the North Shore. There's lots and lots of state parks along the North Shore of Minnesota. We stop at one for a quick walk and bathroom break, and then we continue on to the town of Tofte, Minnesota. And then we'll base a lot of our activities around Tofte. We go on our dog sled day in Isabella, Minnesota. And then one of the days we continue up the North Shore all the way to the town of Grand Marais, which is a really sweet kind of small town right on the shores with a big arts community. And we'll enjoy cross-country skiing and snowshoeing on some trails up there and have some time to spend in Grand Marais. So we really get a nice sort of tour of a lot of the North Shore of Lake Superior. All right. So northern Minnesota boasts a fascinating natural history that is shaped by a lot of geologic forces over really millions of years. Lake Superior was created about 2.5 billion years ago with the mid-continent rift, where the earth split apart. Eventually it was filled with magma and water. The mountains, we call the mountains of Minnesota, once were probably 10,000 feet tall. But during the last ice age, massive glaciers covered this region, and they advanced and retreated, and they scoured the earth, carving out the unique topography that we see today. And the immense pressure and movement of these glaciers shaped the land, created deep valleys, deep for Minnesota, and smoothing over the rock surfaces. So what you see may be covered by snow and ice, but it is some of the oldest rocks that you will touch, being probably 2 billion years old, which is pretty cool. Then as the glaciers receded, they left behind a diverse array of geologic features. So we got rugged cliffs and crags formed from harder rock that resisted erosion. People are often amazed at how rocky northern Minnesota is. They're not super tall, but it is very, very rocky and really beautiful. And then it gouged out some of the softer rock areas and created waterfalls, created some depressions and valleys. And then once the ice retreated enough and warmed up again, we developed a whole network of lakes. So Minnesota is one of the nicknames is the land of 10,000 lakes. And so they are all interconnected by streams and different topographic features. So it's kind of a cool part of this trip is that we get to see both the landscape of the shore of Lake Superior as well as some of the interior, more gentle hills and forests. All right. The human history. So the trip itself takes place in the Superior National Forest, which covers a huge section of northern Minnesota. But there's evidence that there have been humans here for 10,000 years. And really that's almost since the glaciers retreated. The Ojibwe and Dakota culture figure strongly in Minnesota's past and present. The name Minnesota actually comes from the Dakota word Minnesota, which means sky tinted waters or sky blue waters. The state name Minnesota is, boundaries that we created, but it goes far beyond just the the boundaries of what the state is. And there is a very big presence of Ojibwe people that are still living in northern Minnesota. And then in the western part and southern part of Minnesota is still the homeland of the Dakota. Yeah, so there are 7 Ojibwe reservations and 4 Dakota communities still in Minnesota. The other part of the human history is the Dakota and the Ojibwe certainly were the first people, but we were also a state of a land of discovery. So the French voyageurs were huge in the evolution of our history. And then as the French voyageurs kind of moved out, a lot of Scandinavian communities moved in as well. So it's got a rich history of humans. Okay, so then we got wildlife. On the winter trip, it's a little less common that we will see too much wildlife. But there you can see here, there's bats, not so many insects in the winter. So the bats tend to hibernate through the winter. There are definitely bears. We have black bears that live up here. We have seen them, you can see them occasionally on the spear hiking trail. We have yet to see them in the winter on the trip, probably because we're usually making lots of noise because we're having so much fun. But there are black bears that are up here. Wolves are pretty common, and we have actually seen wolf tracks on some of our snowshoe hikes. Moose are a big population up here, although they have dwindled a little bit over the past few years. And the places that we would more likely see those are in the area where we go dog sledding. And then, yeah, caribou and lynx and mountain lions. Lynx and bobcats, I would say, are probably 2 animals that reside in Minnesota that are very elusive, and you probably won't ever see them, but they are in the area. They're pretty cool. All right. So, Katie, do you want to talk about the itinerary, or would you like me to talk about it?
Sure, I can pop in and just talk a little bit about the itinerary, and then maybe you can dive back in with the activities themselves as our snowshoeing and cross-country skiing queen. I'm not quite coordinated enough myself for that. But on day 1, we talked a little bit about the arrival day before, but on day 1, it would be a good goal to arrive by around 3 p.m. In Duluth so that you can make your way to the hotel. Again, you do need to, this is information we'll share in a pre-departure document, but you do need to pre-book taxis. Duluth is a small enough airport that there are not taxis waiting outside for you, so you can pre-book those. We share phone numbers and taxi recommendations. You can make your way to the Inn on Lake Superior in time for the 5 p.m. group meeting, where you'll have a trip overview and kind of an orientation with your guides, and then you'll go out for a kind of celebratory welcome dinner. The next morning, you'll head out and drive to Tofte, kind of a introductory snowshoe around Oberg Mountain. The next day, you'll do some cross-country skiing. What's great about this trip is you can kind of piece things together a little bit. So we understand that for some, it might be the first time trying things out. So you're welcome to try your hand at cross-country skiing in the morning. If you want to relax in the afternoon and take a break, you're welcome to do that, or you can continue snowshoeing. Day 4 will be the dog sledding day. And so that is the full day. I believe it's about 12 miles of dog sledding. You get your hand, you can try out many different positions on the sled. You get to do some grilling. So it's a really fun day, and also gives your legs a break from the snowshoeing and the cross-country skiing. Day 5 is a continuation of the cross-country skiing and snowshoeing adventures, trying out different locations like George Washington Pines, Pincushion, or snowshoeing on the Superior Hiking Trail, and then spending a little bit of time in Grand Marais as well. Sometimes we will or the guides will choose to rearrange a couple of things to make sure that the group is able to take advantage of the best conditions. This is a winter trip, so sometimes those conditions can be variable. And we want to make sure that the trip is as enjoyable as possible, whether it's optimizing the dog sledding day that might need to be moved a day or two. Same thing for snowshoeing, making sure that the trails are in the best condition that they can be. So sometimes this will shift around, but in general, this is a good kind of base to look at. And then the final morning of the trip on day 6, there's a hike along the Temperance River, which Deb tells me can often be one of the highlights of the trip. And then you'll return back to Duluth by it should be 2:30 p.m. in here, before heading out and making your way back home. So we'll talk a little bit more about snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, dog sledding. Some of you may join the trip already having experience, being experts at cross-country skiing, having grown up doing it, or maybe this is your first time trying it out. And we do our best to make these trips a welcoming environment, no matter where you are in your ability in those various activities. So, Deb, do you want to talk a little bit more about snowshoeing?
Yeah, so the trip is called Dog Sledding and Winter Fun. And dog sledding is certainly one of the biggest attractions and one of the biggest highlights, but we also will do a lot of other things. And so one of the activities that we do is snowshoeing. And snowshoeing really kind of depends on the conditions. Sometimes we will just wear like ice trekkers, and because the trails are packed down enough, and we don't need snowshoes. But other times we will snowshoe. The snow might be super fluffy and we get to break trail. The snow, like I said, might be more packed down. And with the Superior Hiking Trail being so close to pretty much everything along the North Shore, we'll take advantage of a couple different sections of the Superior Hiking Trail that we can cover by snowshoe. Pretty much snowshoeing is like walking with some bigger things on your feet. So you can see in the picture that some people like to use poles. Some people don't prefer to use poles. It's really optional. All of the equipment is included in the trip, and Bluefin is the supplier of the majority of the equipment. They do not have the best poles, so if you do have hiking poles with snow baskets, that is something that we suggest bringing. But yeah, we'll just snowshoe in a variety of conditions in a variety of locations. We might get some views. We might be through dense forest. Sometimes it's a really intense workout, and sometimes it's just a nice, peaceful walk through the woods. But it's always full of fun. And you can see, you can make snow angels or fall down. It all happens and it's all great. Next activity that we do is cross-country skiing, which happens to be one of my most favorite winter activities. And as you can see that we will teach a lesson, and the lesson starts with talking about equipment, and then builds up from there. Some of you may have more experience on skis. We can totally tailor the lesson to help people with more experience learn some improved tricks of the trade. But also the place that we start our lesson is an out and back ski. And so if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I'm good to go, I just want to go ski, we can send you off, give you a time to turn around, and then you can come back. And so then we just work with whoever needs it. We'll ski up and back and offer tips. We can work on hills. We can work on some advanced skills. Bluefin does have some skate skis. If you are a skate skier, if you even know what that means, that's a little bit going to be more up to you if that's something that you want to do. We don't offer a skate ski lesson on this trip, though we might know some things about skate skiing. So, but that is also a possibility to do. The ski trails, this section that we do out of Tofte has over 25 kilometers of groomed cross-country ski trail with tracks for classic skiing as well as tracks for skate skiing. We will never ski 25 kilometers of ski trail on this trip. We just don't have the time to do that, but it is really, really awesome. It's an area that is volunteer groomed. We buy ski passes to help support the grooming of the whole entire network. And if cross country skiing is not your thing and you want to just shuffle up and back for a little while, that's totally fine too. Or you can hang out in beautiful Bluefin Resort and enjoy the peace. Cross country skiing is something that you can, and snowshoeing is something that you can do on multiple days. And we will always tell you what your options are. If you want to do more skiing, if you want to do snowshoeing, if you want to do whatever. So there will be lots of opportunities to ski and snowshoe throughout the 5 days. All right. And then, of course, the dog sled day. Dog sledding is incredible. The dogs, as you can see here, they're super friendly. We work with White Wilderness Sled Dog Adventures, and they are just one of the best operations that I have had the opportunity to work with. You will get a chance to harness the dogs. You will get a chance to learn everything there is about dog school. You will get a chance to drive the sleds. Everybody is on a two-person sled, and so one person drives. As you can see, our person in yellow is the driver. She's standing up behind the runners, and then one person will ride in the sled. And when you ride in the sled, that's your opportunity to take your photos, take your videos, just enjoy the world swishing by. And then when you're driving the sled, sometimes it's really just hanging out and enjoying the world rushing by. Sometimes it's helping the dogs by pedaling or slowing them down or helping turn a corner. The dogs pretty much, for the most part, follow the dogs in front of them. Your main job is to kind of keep space between the dog teams and encourage them if they decide they're tired and lazy. But they're super cute. They bite the snow as we run along and they eat snow and they poop on the run. And it's just really, 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 really spectacular. And the amount of mileage we will cover really depends on the day. We've done as many as 25 miles in a day and as few as like 16. It really just depends on the snow conditions. But it's awesome. As we're out dog sledding, this is a day that, so every other day we'll sort of go out for the morning, we'll come back, have lunch, go out for the afternoon. Dog sledding day, we stay outside for the entire day. So from dog school to when we get back at the end of the day, we'll be outside. And one of the super awesome things about it is that we get to stop and have a trailside lunch. White Wilderness provides a really fun lunch for us. We build a fire. Collecting wood is another way to warm up if we're cold. We build a fire. We make, bratwurst and all sorts of fun stuff. We eat, we let the dogs relax, and then we gear up and we continue to dog sled. It's really beautiful. You can see sometimes we get to cross frozen lakes, which is pretty cool. A lot of times we're just on old forest roads through the woods. Sometimes they take us on a little bit like old, like frozen creeks, and it's like a lot more bumpy and exciting. So it really just depends on what it is. And you will learn everything there is to know about driving a sled on the trip. All right. After we spend all this awesome time outside, not only do the activities help you burn a lot of energy and calories, you also need to have caloric intake to be able to stay warm. So this is one trip that we always talk about. I mean, our trips are known for really good food, and we always encourage people to eat. But this is a trip where we really encourage you to eat. If you are cold, one of the ways to help yourself is to eat snacks. And so we cook meals for you in our condos, and we also will go out to eat for a couple meals. and everything is cozy and quaint and delicious. Yep, and then you can see again, we get our little trail side fire and bratwurst. So again, equipment is all included. We will talk about everything that we use. We will, yeah, we will tell you how to put on snowshoes. There's lots of different styles of snowshoes. We'll tell you how to fit them over your boots, what size you might want to take, whether we want snow trekkers or snowshoes. When we gear up for skiing, we'll tell you how to figure out what skis you need, what size boots you need, all of that kind of stuff. One of the things that people ask is if they need to bring special boots for skiing, and you do not. The cross-country skis take a fitted boot that will be available in the outfitter building that we need. So really, you will just need boots to help keep your feet warm for snowshoeing. All right. Our accommodations for this trip, I mean, everything about this trip is amazing. And our accommodations for this trip are no less amazing. So we will spend one night at the Inn on Lake Superior, which is in Canal Park in Duluth, right on the shores of Lake Superior. 2-bedroom shared rooms or single supplements are available. They have an indoor swimming pool. They do have a rooftop pool, but it is not open in the winter. But they provide a fire outside with s'mores kits if you want to make that. And then we drive up the North Shore and we spend the rest of our time at Bluefin Bay. Our condos are right on the shores of Lake Superior, 2 and 3 bedroom condos. Everybody gets their own room. The condos have shared bathrooms. There is an indoor hot tub. There's an outdoor hot tub. There are swimming pools. If you aren't tired enough at the end of the day, you can go play broomball or go ice skating on their ice rink. There is a little workout room in the hot tub area if you really feel like you need some more stuff to do. And they also have a fire that goes where we can make s'mores outside. But otherwise, most of the time, people are nice and tired at the end of the day and just want to snuggle up in their cozy pajamas and enjoy the warm condos. Yeah.
So one of the things that's kind of come up as Deb has been describing the activity levels, a common theme, and why we have rated this trip a level 2 and 3 is that you have a lot of agency or a lot of choice on this trip. If you are exhausted from the morning's activities, Bluefin Bay is a perfect place to relax for the afternoon. If you, ate your pasta the night before and you want to keep, powering through for the full day of activities, you can certainly do that. So that's why we have that kind of level 2, because it does require, some dedication and effort to try and get the snowshoes and the cross country skiing and those skills. But also a level 2 in that it's not as rigorous if you were going to do a half day of activity, for example. And it would be a level 3 if you were to do all of the hikes, skis offered by the guides. It would fall into that level 3 category. So that's why we kind of advertise it as such. Is it's really for anyone who wants to experience a variety of winter activities. Again, whether you've given them a try or not, as long as you're willing to give it a shot, this trip could be a great fit for you. And I will say, as someone who lives I live in Vermont. It's getting darker and darker here every day. It's really wonderful to have something to look forward to, something to train for. Winter can be really, really wonderful when you get to feel the cold air on your face. And it feels really rewarding, especially to have spent the day outside in the cold air and know that you did it, and then to get to warm up at these wonderful accommodations that you have. So I think it's definitely a really great trip for someone who is trying their hand for the first time, or a seasoned skier or snowshoer. We can find a spot for anyone on this trip as a level 2 or 3.
Before you
Yeah.
continue on, Katie, I want to talk a
Sure.
little bit about activities too.
Yeah.
So, generally we go out for about 1.5 to 2 hours of activity. Sometimes the first 10 minutes of that is everybody just getting their equipment on. But then we go out and we kind of like all of our trips, like we try to stay somewhat together for safety. The safety in winter is even higher than it is in some other seasons, but also we will might get a little bit spread out, and people can go a little bit faster. We have a pretty extensive packing list, and but we don't want you to be intimidated by it. A lot of the things that are on the packing list are probably things you already have in your array of clothing from all the seasonal hiking or whatever you might do. And any questions that you have about it, you can reach out to Katie. You can reach out. She often reaches out to me to say, what do you think of this kind of, wow, blank
A boot? A boot?
item of clothing. And the weather on this trip can be anywhere from well below zero to probably even in the 30s. And every single day, and even in every half day, we will talk about what the activity is. We will talk about options of how we would dress, how it compares to what we did the day before or the morning. And so you start getting a reference of what makes sense for you to dress. And everybody is completely different. I am somebody who likes to wear extra clothes. I run a little bit cold, and I would rather just be nice and toasty warm. And then there's other people who are like, I'm hot and everything you told me to wear, I am dying here. And so there's also like clothes aerobics that go on. But we will make sure that you are dressed appropriately for what we do. And then it's really a self-learning. This trip is really about learning how to be outdoors in the winter, active and comfortable. So don't let all this conversation about cold and clothes and all that kind of stuff intimidate you, because we are there to support you and make sure that you are dressed in the ways that you should be.
Perfect. Thanks, Deb. Great points about the packing list. And I think another great point is that if you are feeling like you might want some extra assistance to prepare physically for snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, we're always advising to have some sort of training program for yourself, whether you're getting ready for a slack packing trip, whether you're getting ready to hike out in Colorado with us. And this is also a trip that requires, more specific muscles when it comes to snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. Trying something new is always a good opportunity to make sure you're well prepared. And so we just wanted to remind everyone that we work a lot with Becky Rupp from Trailblazer Wellness, and she has an offer for all AGC guests for a free 30-minute consultation. And so if you are considering this trip and you would like to know how to be as prepared as you can be for the activities that maybe you're not as familiar with, I would definitely recommend reaching out to Becky. You can find her at trailblazerwellness.com/coaching -AGC. That's her website, or you can reach out to Becky at trailblazerwellness.com. You can see her Instagram and Facebook handles there as well. So that would be something that certainly would be a great idea to schedule at least that free 30-minute consultation. And you can always decide to work with her for the months leading up to this trip if you would like to set up a plan with her.